what makes us come alive, a sacrifice of praise. A city on a hill, surrender to your will, your glory on display, your glory on display. Awesome in this place, Jesus, you are awesome in this place. Worthy to be praised, Jesus, you are worthy to be praised. Come on, put your hands together. We'll be praised. Jesus, you are awesome in this place. Worthy to be praised. Jesus, you are worthy to be praised. You will be praised. Awesome in this place, Jesus, you are awesome in this place. Oh, you're worthy, worthy to be praised. Jesus, you are worthy to be praised. You will be praised. Victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see the mountain moved. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear, God, for I am safe with you. Thank you, Jesus. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear
lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh, you're our confidence, you are everything, God. Oh, and if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. Thank you, Lord. When all I see is the cross, God, you see the empty tomb. Whoa. So when I fight on my knees with my hands lifted high, oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh, almighty fortress, you always go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle, and nothing can stand against the power of our God. Oh, almighty fortress, you go before us, and nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadow, you win every battle, and nothing can stand against the. Come on, we're gonna sing it one more time. Hallelujah. Oh, an almighty fortress, you go before us, and nothing can stand against the power. Come on, we declare it together. You shine in the shadow, and you win every battle, and nothing can stand against the power of our God. And when I fight on my knees with my hands lifted high, oh God, my battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Hallelujah. He's our everything, isn't he?
I'm just going to admit, this is hard for me to sing today right now because the enemy wants me to look at every circumstance and everything around me to defeat me. But it's a choice, and it's my choice today to declare the goodness of God in my life. Oh, you're my almighty fortress. Oh, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of my God. Oh, almighty fortress, we declare, you go before us, and nothing can stand against the power. Oh, you're undefeated, you shine in my shadow, you win every battle. Nothing can. Come on, he can win your battles today just like he can win mine. Oh, you're my almighty fortress. Oh, and you go before us.
Lift your praise today.
What's the difference between those who settled for less and those who never settled? So have you guys ever been to not a family reunion, that was the wrong thing, a high school reunion or a college reunion? Has anybody ever been to a reunion? Have you found that when you went to the reunion that the people that you thought, man, they were born with different advantages, whether it be that they were born into a specific family or they were just born with more talent or more looks or more speed or more brains or whatever, they are going to change the world. And then there was other people that you were like, oh, bless your heart. And you got to the reunion and found out that the people that you thought were going to be the world changers had settled and not done what you expected. And those that you never in a million years would have thought much about are like biochemists and brain surgeons. Have you ever found that? Okay, it's a thing. That's why they make TV shows about it. You know, you go back to your reunion and you're like, what? It's shocking. So I want to talk to you a little bit about today about what the difference is. All right, so what's the difference between those who settled for less and those who never settled? And then your next line, those who look back with regret and those who look back and know they lived life well. There's a bunch of acronyms or little sayings that culture says today, and I am not going to act like I am up on those sayings because I am not. My kids remind me often. But there's something called FOMO, okay? And this has been in the last like 2 or 3 years, so I'm educating everybody that has not heard of this term. It's the fear of missing out. Has anybody heard of FOMO? This is why Instagram is taking off. This is why people are filming their food. Okay, for those of you that don't have an Instagram account. And it's weird because you'll get on there and you'll compare, you know, your living room to somebody else's living room, and you're like, I want barn doors in my living room. Because this fear of missing out, or people are always on the top of a mountain, you know, and there's like this, and I'm like, how do you have time for this? What mountain is that? And do you not work? You know, it's just like people are Instagramming everything. And it has created this culture of this fear of missing out. So I want to apply that today to the only thing we should have FOMO about. Okay? There's only one thing that we should be fearing missing out. And that is the opportunity to be with God when God is doing what he's about to do. He is up to something big. Does anybody else believe that? If you've been in this church for any amount of time recently, you have heard Pastor talk about the rapture. You've heard Pastor talk about God coming back. You've heard Pastor talk about Kiss the Son was a couple weeks ago, and just that intimacy with him. And then he talked about wrath, and that was a powerful sermon. Some of us have just completely lost our fear of God altogether. That's why we do have the ridiculous things we do, because we're just like, there's not going to be a huge consequence, at least not now. We can put it off. But the point is all these sermons, all this that we've been learning, it is evident God is up to something huge. He is changing history right now, and you're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of a history shift. I believe the Lord is coming back very soon, and I cannot believe we're here in the middle of all of this. Some of the stuff I know we wish we weren't here for. I know there's a lot of you that are like, I never thought I would see the day, And my granddaddy would turn over in his grave, But this can be, depending on your perspective, an exciting time where you're watching God change history. And you get to be a part of it, or you get to settle. I believe that God wants us all to have an extraordinary life, and I believe that he is doing extraordinary things all around us. And some of us are waiting, and I don't know what we're waiting for. Your next line, we can't plan extraordinary moments, but we can be present for them.
How many of you have a hard time being present? I get so busy. I'm what we call, at least in my circle, the Energizer Bunny. Okay? And I tend to be very irritated by slow people. In all things. If you're driving slow, if you're talking slow, if you're walking slow, if that task is taking longer than it ought, if that 10-minute activity has turned into an hour, I just don't have patience. I believe that there are moments of beauty all around us where God wants us to step into an extraordinary, life-altering, complete shift in the life of someone else and in our own lives. But we are not stopping long enough to see it and grasp it and be present. How many of you know that all of us live by life principles? Even if you didn't grow up in church, even if you didn't, you didn't get saved till a year ago, all of us have life principles. You want to know what your life principles are, look at the patterns of your life. Look at your patterns, look at your routines. Are y'all with me? Okay, I'm going to give you an example. How many of you have said often, I wish I had done that? How many of you said, if I could go back and choose differently, I sure would? How many of you said that more than 10 times? Okay. How many of you have said, how come that never happens for me? If you notice a constant state of regret, you may need a seismic shift in your life principles. I believe that there are moments that we're standing in that 1 degree to the right and 1 degree to the left would be a collision of the supernatural. But we're so focused on where we're going that we don't get off on that 1 degree left or right. You guys know that Pastor's been talking about the rapture, right? And how we're not going to be left behind. Don't be left behind. So what I want to talk to you about is being left behind before the rapture ever happens. All right? Do you know that we're all going to be held to an account of what we were assigned? Can we walk worthy of that call? Let's look at it. When the Lord was about to take Elijah, I always get Elijah and Elisha mixed up. Okay, when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, stay here. The Lord has sent me to Bethel. But Elisha said, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel. The company of the prophets at Bethel came out to Elisha and asked, do you know that the Lord is going to take your master from you today? He responded, yes, I know. Be quiet. Then Elijah said to him, stay here. The Lord has sent me to Jericho. And Elisha replied, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you. So they went on to Jericho. Then the company of the prophets at Jericho went up to Elisha and asked him, do you know that the Lord is about to take your master from you today? Yes, I know, he replied, so be quiet. I think that's hilarious. I wouldn't be telling no group of prophets to be quiet, but he did, okay? Then Elijah said to him, stay here, the Lord has sent me to the Jordan. And he replied, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you. So the two of them walked on. 50 men from the company of the prophets went and stood at the distance, facing the place where Elijah and Elisha had stopped at the Jordan. Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water with it, and the water divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them crossed over on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, tell me, what can I do for you before I'm taken away? And he said, let me inherit a double portion of your spirit. You have asked a difficult thing, Elijah said. Yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it will be yours, otherwise it will not. And they were walking along and talking together, and suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them. And Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. And Elisha saw him no more. Then he took hold of his clothes, his garment, and tore it in two. Elisha then picked up Elijah's cloak that had fallen from him and went back and stood at the bank of the Jordan. He took the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and smacked the water with it. And then he said, "Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" When he struck the water, it divided to the right and to the left, and he crossed over. Has anybody noticed that he kept telling the prophets to be quiet? Because I've read this a couple of times and never noticed that. Interesting to me that Elisha, it was almost like he knew that wherever Elijah was, stuff was happening with God. And he was kind of like his connection to God. Everywhere Elijah went, crazy stuff was happening. God was. So Elisha had this relationship with Elijah and was accessing even an encounter with God because of this servanthood. All right? The second that Elijah was gone, nothing was left but Elisha and God. I want to talk about this for just a second because there's got to come a time in your life where your faith is your faith. And it is not borrowed. And it's not because you have been raised a certain way, and it's not because you do what you do because you've seen it done and you've seen it patterned and you're just patterning and you're like, well, they do it, it must be the right method, but because you have your own relationship with God and you and him are not on borrowed faith. That's number one. Okay? Number two is, what were the prophets saying every time he stopped and they said, hey, you know that that God's about to take your master? Why was that happening? Any ideas? Because to me, it seems weird to me that the prophets knew what God was about to do, but they were staying put. They weren't going from town to town. Y'all, if I was a prophet and God said, I'm going to come down with horses of fire and a chariot of fire, and I'm going to scoop up a living being in a whirlwind and take him with me, and I had the chance to see that because I was a prophet and knew it was going to happen, I wouldn't be chilling in Bethel or Jericho or Gilgal. I'd be like, yo, I got to see this. They were staying there. What was the point of them telling him repeatedly? Do you think for a second that maybe, I'm not saying that they were wrong in what they were saying at all. There was a point to it. I'm trying to understand the point. Do you think that there's a possibility they were saying, hey, the investment, all this investment that you've given, it's all about to come to an end? Or do you think they were saying, hey, the dude that you've been serving is about to be gone. Are you ready? You're about to have big shoes to fill. It could have been a challenge. It could have been a warning. Then why was Elijah constantly saying, stay back? If the Lord knew the whole point of this process was that Elisha was going to get a double portion, why was he even asking him to stay back? I want y'all to think with me. I'm just trying to get y'all to think like I think. When I read these stories, I'm like, I don't get it. Usually I call Dad. I'm like, I don't get this. What is this? And then he'll tell me what he thinks, or he'll say, well, this is what people believe, or this is what has been taught. I really read this hoping for God to give me a revelation. I want to understand this for myself. And I don't want to have the borrowed faith. I want to understand. So I'm going to tell you what I have gleaned from this. I do believe that the Lord often gives us an opportunity to settle, because he wants to see you refuse to settle. I believe the Lord wants us to refuse to stay behind. I believe there are opportunities where the Lord says, this is what I can do in you. And he's waiting for you to believe that it can be done. This is what I have for you. This is what I can do through you. Do you believe that it can happen through you? Because you're not enough, but I'm enough. And I'm giving you the opportunity, if this is too much, for you to stay behind. But if you're not wanting to stay behind, come with me. I think when I first read about the prophets telling him, hey, your master is about to get gone, in my head, I was thinking of all the times that people have told me in ministry, you've done enough. You've served this enough. Do you not think that somebody might have thought, Elisha, you've done enough. You left everything you knew. You left your farm. You left all of this. You went and you served. You've served faithfully. You've done enough. You've done what anybody else would do. You know? And he's about to go and, good on you. He's telling you to stay back. There would have been no harm in him staying back. He'd have been in good company with the prophets. I got to believe that something spectacular and something beautiful and something special was given this man because he was like, you know what? I'm not going to let the standard of mediocrity be what defines my faith. And you're right, I have done well, and I have given what anybody else would give, but that's not my standard. Wherever he goes, I'm going. Because everywhere he goes, God's with him, and wherever God is, that's where I'm going to be. How many of you are employers or bosses at a company, or you've ever had to manage people? How many of you, when you think of a person that worked for you or worked with you, or even in a ministry, you thought, this emergency happens, and I've got to get somebody to fill this spot. And I got to call somebody, and I got to figure out who can, at the last second, drop what they're doing, cancel their plans, show up, and do what I need them to do. Doesn't it create a joy in you when you know that there is always one person you can depend on to do that? I love that. I'll be honest with you, that's the way I feel a lot toward the Delaney boys. I know if something weird happens and all chaos breaks out, I could probably call Ty and Jamin and be like, yo, we got a disaster. I need your help. And they'll be like, well, I'll get off in 5 minutes. See you in 10. What a joy. I get here on Sundays, I don't have somebody greeting at the front door, hey, can you go greet? Sure. Not, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and my back's a little tender today. I mean, it's just like they're already gone to the door before I can do anything. What a joy. So, how many of you the Lord thinks of you and smiles that way? This is a person I need touched. This is something I need done, and I know no matter what, I can call Susie, and she's going to drop everything. And she's going to step into something out of her schedule, and nothing is going to hold her back. And whatever, whenever, wherever, she's there. She's my girl. Does God think of you that way? Because he does not think of me that way. But I want him to. If other people do not think of you that way, I can guarantee you he doesn't. I want to be that girl. I want to be that girl that God says, you know what? I know for a fact that if I ask April to do this, no matter what else is going on, she's going to drop it and follow me because wherever I am, she wants to be. I'm talking about being present today, and some people think, well, I don't have anybody asking me to follow them around. I don't have anybody asking me to go with them on trips to do miracles But let's be specific here. I think it's interesting that when Elijah said to Elisha, stay back. You can stay here. I've got to go on to Bethel, and then I've got to go on to Jericho, and then I've got to go on to Jordan. Several times he offered for him to stay back. Does anybody notice that Elisha didn't pray about it? His immediate response. Why didn't he pray about it? Has any of you met somebody that has to pray about everything? I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's bizarre, like Hardee's or Burger King. Prayer is a conversation, and the point of prayer is to have a conversation. It is to have a response. I'm talking to you, and I want you to talk back to me. The point of a conversation is to get a response, correct? You guys stick with me. If I talk to Jason all the time and he just looks at me, the point of prayer is to get a response. If you have prayed about something and God has responded, you don't have to keep praying about it unless you're hoping to change his mind. So for most of you in this room, you have prayed and you at least have some kind of passion in your life, some kind of calling in your heart, some kind of desire to change the world, to make an impact, to be a servant for the Lord. There's something that you are predispositioned, for. If you have prayed about it and you know where God wants to take you and what he wants, you ain't got to stop and pray about it again. just immediately respond with what you know is truth. I need to work on this. Because the truth is, I will help wherever there's a need. But it doesn't mean all those needs are my passion at all. I just am trying to be a help. But then there's other times that the Lord speaks to me so clearly, and I'm like, well, I'm busy doing all the other stuff I need to be doing to help your kingdom. And there is something very special about stopping what you're doing, even the busyness of kingdom doing, and just in that moment being present for a collision with the supernatural. When you stay where you are, you stay who you are. The journey is not about the miles, it's about the moments. And when God invites you into a moment, you choose whether you step in it or not. So my question is, what if Elisha had stayed behind? Does anybody think he would have gotten the double portion? He wouldn't have even had the chance to ask for it. Y'all get that? He had to tell him no 3 times and tell the prophets, hush, 3 times before Elijah said, what can I do for you before I go? He wasn't even given the opportunity to ask for what was promised until he had stepped out and refused to settle. He would have stayed who he was. If you go through the whole Bible and just do the what ifs, what if they had not obeyed? You can pretty much mark every huge miracle in the Bible as someone stepping into a moment of destiny, and it was off the beaten path. The people that make a difference in the world, it's not because their intelligence or talent, their opportunities, or even their environment. This is just something I wrote down. It's because they refuse to be left behind. They step into a moment and crash into an opportunity, believing that there's a future awaiting them on the other side of their fear. So my question is, what life could you be living if you stopped staying behind? We're going to go to Luke 10:38 through 42. You guys know the story of Mary and Martha, right? All right. I have heard this story preached a bajillion times about how Martha was busy and y'all just don't need to be a Martha. Have y'all ever heard people preach the sermon like, don't be a Martha? Okay, she was busy, busy, busy. What's weird to me about this story is, this is in Luke 10, right? In Luke 9, the disciples are arguing about who's going to be the greatest, and Jesus says the servant of all. So in Luke 9, he's telling them, the greatest of you is the one that serves, and then in Luke 10, he's saying Martha's serving is out of order. Jesus gets over there, they're hosting a party, or hosting Jesus, hosting a gathering at their house. Mary is sitting at his feet. Martha is busy. What's weird is every time I have heard this preached, they say that Martha is busy doing the food prep, the groceries, and the housework. And it does not say that anywhere in the Bible. She's busy with many tasks, and she is distracted. It's the word diakonia, like Diakonia. And that is the actual Greek word for her being distracted or anxious about a great number of things. And that word, diakonia, is translated ministry, and it's where the word deacon comes from. So I don't think she was necessarily doing food prep. I don't know what she was doing. But what she was doing was not where Jesus was and wasn't with him. So this is important because this means that you can be about ministry stuff, which has to be done, by the way. Somebody has to do the grocery shopping. Food has to be cooked. When you're hosting a party or hosting an event, there has to be a hostess. This work has to be done. In Luke 22, think about it. They're all sitting around, and Jesus says, who's greater, the one that serves the table or the one sitting at the table? And they say, the one sitting at the table, of course. And he says, not in this case, for I am here to serve you. So this isn't an argument about whether manual labor versus kingdom labor is greater or less. You understand that? It would be weird for in Luke 9 for him to say the greatest of you is the servant, and then in Luke 10 say Martha shouldn't be serving. Hear me. What it means is that all service is important, but when Jesus is in the room and there is a moment for an encounter, you probably should choose to be where the encounter is happening. I'm trying to get us excited about little moments of encounter and choosing to not sit back and settle during the encounter, but actually get up and be like, I am on the lookout for the next encounter, and I am actively pursuing an opportunity for that encounter. I can relate with both Mary and Martha, honestly. I can relate to being the busy person that is always doing a ministry, especially here at Christian Assembly. I do about 15 things, and some of them I love, and some of them I'm tolerant of, okay? But I do it because there's a need. I don't ever want to get to the point, though, where Jesus is wanting to do something spectacular, and I'm so busy doing something else that he's standing in the room and I don't notice. I just don't. And I want us to all be a lot more aware of each other and the little moments of miracles that might be dependent on your interaction. I want you guys to really think about it for just a second, okay? Where are you distracted and where are you wasting time? So now I want to ask you, are you living a life of obligation, which is your next line, or are you living a life of intention? This is going to be one of those sermons where you're going to have to think about it, because the truth is I cannot answer this for you. I know that there is a lot of obligations out there, but I want to say this. I'm not even talking about the positive obligations. Some of you are living beneath your call because you are living under an obligation of nobody expects that much out of you, so please just be quiet and stay where you are. And there are limits on your life, and you for some reason feel obligated to what has been spoken over you or these limits, and it is not your calling, and you are living beneath your calling. And instead of living an obligation to appease, everybody knows you're not going to amount to much, so please just be quiet and stay in the background. For whatever reason, you're obeying that instead of living a life of intention where you're deciding, I want to be the girl that's like, hey, you're supposed to stay behind. Just stay here, chill, relax. You've done enough. You've served enough. You've sacrificed when other people haven't. You know, you're good. I want to be the girl that says that's someone else's call. But my call is wherever God is, that's where I am. Wherever he's doing something, that's where you're going to find April. Wherever he's changing history, that's where you're going to find April. And if you're curious as to where God is, look for April. And I'm not that girl yet, but I sure want to be. I was busy this morning printing notes for this, and Daphne and Krista walked in. I think y'all were doing coffee or something, were you? I couldn't even take a second to get a hug because I was so busy printing notes. And as I'm literally bustling around, Daphne just walks up behind me, and I just turned, and she was just standing there, and it's like I needed that breath to just stop. I'm busy printing notes so that I could minister to a group, and right in that second, I could tell Daphne was not feeling great. I said, how are you? And she said, I'm okay. And I missed the opportunity to say, what's going on? Put my arms around her and pray. And so she just turned around and walked off to the kitchen. And I'm sorry, Daphne, because that could have been a miraculous moment. And I missed it. Can you guys just work with me a little bit and understand my heart here? We have got to be present. How many of you are scared to step into moments? Drew said me. Ty's raising his hand, James. So we got 3 truthful people. Why are we scared to step into a moment where we look foolish? Sometimes we're just scared that if we obey and we do this thing, we're going to look foolish. They're not going to respect us anymore. We're no longer going to have access to this friendship or whatever it was, and it's not going to turn out so great. So what if all those things happen? The world goes on. Is y'all's reputation seriously that serious? Mine is not. Because if it were, I would have not stepped foot back in this church. I think that fear of failure distracts us most. And I've gotten to the place over the past 2 years being back at this church. I've been back at this church for almost 6. But in the past 2 years, I've been preaching. And I've had to get really confrontational with fear, specifically with failure. I've had to get to the point where I am looking at failure in the eye and I'm saying, you do not scare me anymore. We are familiar. I am familiar with who you are, and you will not keep me in this moment. When you confront failure, there's an opportunity to move beyond it. And if the enemy cannot get you to stop doing what you're doing for the kingdom, he will distract you, period. That is his only option if you won't stop. Most of us are caught up in 2 things, the past or the future. This is the 2 reasons we are not present. Past regret, failure, disappointment, or replaying a mistake over and over in your head. You're hostage to what was and totally ignorant to what could be. Then some of us are hostage to the future. Some people are stuck in the future. You have hopes and dreams that are keeping you preoccupied, and you can't focus on the present. Some of you are full of envy, longing for the next promotion, longing for the next best thing, totally ignoring the now needed thing. That is the 2 reasons we are not in the present. We are occupied with the past or preoccupied with the future. That's it. I was listening to one of my favorite preachers this morning, and she was talking about the loaves and fish. Y'all know the story, right? The disciples. They're with Jesus. They go to this desert place, and all these people congregate, and they want to hear from Jesus, and he starts preaching, and it gets late in the day, and everybody's hungry. She said something that made me laugh. She said, they first said, Jesus, send these people away. And I thought, this is what we do. All of us in the present, we see a problem coming our way, and we're like, Jesus, send this person away. They said, send the people away. It's getting late. We need to eat. They were the ones hungry. Jesus said, what do you have? And then they said, send us away. And that's what cracked me up. I never thought about that. They were like, send us into the town that we may find bread. They were like, either you need to send them out or you need to send us out because this is not happening. Then when he said, well, what do you have? He didn't even wait for them to answer. He said, what do you have? Go look. What's neat about that whole story is, again, they took what they had and they put it in his hands. He blessed it and then gave them back what they had just given him. He did not give them back multiplied loaves. You understand that? It says that he blessed the 2 and the 5, broke what he had, gave it to them, and as they began to go out to the people, it began to multiply. Some of us are waiting on someone else to call us, someone else to tell us what our mission is, our destiny is, or whatever. And there's a moment where God's just saying, what do you have? Do you have a smile? Do you have a hug? Do you have a word of encouragement? If you'll put it in my hands, I'll bless it. And then when you use it, and then when you step out and touch the multitude, it will become sustenance. Oh, and by the way, it's not just sustenance for them, it's sustenance for you, because the disciples ate and there was 12 baskets left over, one for each of them. Their answer to their hunger was in their obedience in a moment. The answer to their own hunger, their own miracle, was their obedience to step into a moment. I think God's looking for some crazy volunteers. I want to be a crazy volunteer. I want to be that girl. And what's weird is when you become that person in the present where you are literally looking for moments of miraculous and you are looking for opportunities to be the history maker and to take what you have and say, God, bless this and double it, multiply it, because I'm going to do this just because I know it's what you would want. I don't even have to pray about it. I don't need to stop and ask you, would you like me to pray for this girl and encourage her? I mean, she's throwing up. She's crying so hard. I just need to pray about it a second. But no, I'm going to step in and I'm going to be Jesus to this person with skin on. And I'm going to look at this person as though I'm the Lord, and I'm going to think, I wonder how he feels about her. I wonder how he cares for her. I wonder how he would love to put his arms around her right now. And I volunteer. I want to be the girl that everybody knows. You want to know what God's up to? Find April. Because she's going to be right in the middle of what he's doing. I thought it was interesting that Elisha picks up the cloak that fell after Elijah goes. And nobody had to tell him, you need to pray about grabbing that cloak. And you probably should pray and ask the Lord, hey, so did I get the double portion or not? Prove it, you know. He just picked it up and smacked the water. He modeled what he had seen, and then he said, where is the God of Elijah? It was almost as if he was saying, is the God of Elijah going to be the God of Elisha? That is so courageous. I want to be that courageous. Where I see all these miracles in the Bible, and I don't wonder if I'm good enough. And I don't wonder if I'm holy enough. And I don't wonder if I'm skilled enough. But I just know I'm obedient enough that if I pick it up and say, where is the God of David? And where is the God of Elijah? And where is the God of Ruth? And where is the God of whoever? That I will get to experience that same God in that moment for provision, for access, for the miraculous. Confident in my conviction that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and I will be worthy of the call. I think that when people who are Debbie Downers, does everybody know what a Debbie Downer is? It's just like, well, the day's okay. And they're almost antagonistic toward people that actually pursue these miraculous moments. They're like, how dare you pray for that? How dare you have faith for that? What makes you think that you can ask for that? When people say, who do you think you are? I don't know who I am, but I know when you stayed in Gilgal, I kept walking. And when you stayed in Jericho, I kept walking. And when you stayed in Bethel, I kept walking. Oh, and by the way, when you were watching, I was crossing the Jordan. Because I walked in the miraculous while you were watching. Doesn't matter who I am, it matters who I'm with. Where he's working and what he's doing. And that's all that matters. Elisha did exactly one short of double what Elijah did before his death. So Elijah did this number of miracles, and Elisha did one short of double before he died. So did God come up short? He died. He was buried. After he had been dead, an army came through. A soldier died. They picked up the soldier, threw him in a ditch, and he touched Elisha's bones and was raised from the dead. Exactly double, because God never comes up short. Ever. If you are willing to just be present. Intentional, not out of obligation, not distracted, but intentional. I believe you can witness the God who never comes up short. So I gave you a way to do that. There are hard cards. One side is about you and God. It's called First Things First. The first one is invite. This is between you and God. You're gonna get quiet, you're gonna get still, you're gonna get focused, and you're gonna invite God into your day, into your moment, and you're gonna welcome him. I want you to try to do this in the morning if you can, but some of you might not be able to do this until halfway through the afternoon because you're a mean human being in the morning. Then, no matter when you do this, I want you to review. And you can review the events of the last hour, the last day, the last week, but I want you to review them with thanksgiving. We've talked about prayer a lot and how it's supposed to be with gratitude and thanksgiving. Review what's gone on and have a gratitude that brings praise for each moment, good and bad. Lord, this is what went down yesterday, and I just want to thank you. And this situation was a little bit not fun, but I want to thank you anyway, because I know you're probably growing something in me and developing something in me. Then reflect. I want you to then notice areas of weakness and strength, reactions and attitudes. The word reflect is reflection. So specifically, was there something in your day before where you didn't reflect Jesus? Was there an attitude that crept up that was like, Lord, I need you to send the multitudes away, or I need you to send me away? Was there an attitude that maybe didn't reflect Jesus? And then confront. I want you to identify the mistakes and shortcomings and ask him to help. Ask him to grow you. And then end with hope. Look forward, invite him into what's to come, and thank him in advance for his faithfulness. This is a way that you can be present with the Lord every single day. If you will every single day invite him into your moment, thank him for what he's already done, thank him for what he's about to do, identify the places that you maybe didn't reflect him well and ask him to help you. And then the other side is called be present. And it is for you and people. Number one is wait. We need to learn to embrace the silence, guys. Some of us, we respond too quickly and we don't listen. And this is me I'm talking to. When you're talking to someone, embrace the silence. Don't just start talking, just listen. Number two, practice humility. I have a hard time not being humble as much as not talking about myself, which seems super arrogant, but sometimes when you're talking to someone and they're going through something, you want to tell them all the times you went through that same thing and how you did it with stellar radiance or whatever, I don't know. Or you want to start talking about yourself and how, I know, girl, I throat punched a dude the other day for no reason. He just ticked me off in the Walmart. Don't start talking about yourself. Practice humility. In that moment, there are a lot of people that come in this church as visitors that don't know Jesus, and they get turned off by people talking about themselves. And then number three, consider, how does the Father feel? What does he think about this person? And how would he care for them if he was standing right here? And then number four, risk. Defeat your fear. Obey, respond with courageous conviction. Be a conduit of his presence and his touch. And number five, you finally get to say something about yourself. This is going to be the share where you're going to testify of his goodness because you've seen it firsthand. This is your opportunity to explain that he is faithful and you know it. And he is hope and you know it. And he is salvation and you know it. Because I believe God uses people that are willing to look foolish and risk everything to step into a moment where he can be glorified.
I can't walk away. just want to be where you are. I just want to be near